Rome in all its grandeur. St. Peter's Basilica lights up the sky. All around is postcard perfect. But behind the high walls, turmoil roils the church. You may think you know this story, priests abusing children. But there is something you may not know. There are powerful institutions within the church who are free to self-police. In many cases, not even the Pope can sanction them. The religious orders, the Jesuits, Benedictines, Franciscans. Powerful, wealthy, and secretive. But according to experts, victims, witnesses we spoke with, there is one order that stands out as among the most defiant, most unrepentant. The Salesians of Don Bosco, the second largest order in the world, and whose very mission is to help vulnerable children. In a year-long CNN investigation through Europe, Africa, and across the United States, we found a pattern of behavior which saw many of the Salesian Brotherhood protecting each other, moving alleged abusers from place to place, country to country. In some cases, allegedly threatening whistleblowers and victims. Across continents, across decades, an order meant to protect children, but too many times hurts them instead. Two men separated by over a decade of time, but each's abuse and betrayal bleeds into the other's.
Lawyers say that when their client was a student at Richmond's Salesian High School from 1969 to 1973,
local television coverage of a shocking case.
And in their lawsuit filed yesterday, they say other clergy at the school knew about it.
In the late 60s, early 1970s, the Salesian High School in Richmond, California was a hunting ground for a ring of pedophile priests. A self-protecting cluster. An anonymous victim, John Doe 17, filed a lawsuit that was brought in 2003. John Doe 17 is Joey Piscatelli.
I was kind of a happy child. I was an artist. I went to a Catholic grammar school. I got straight A's for 8 years.
When did that start to change?
We were going to play pool, and the priest, who's the vice principal, he sat down at the bench. And he said, "You shoot." And I said, "Okay." And I shot the ball. And I turned around and told him, "It's your turn." And I looked at him, and he was sitting there masturbating. And I remember I turned all red. I started sweating. The hair on my neck was standing up. And I just stood there frozen. I didn't know what to do. And he said, "Keep playing now, I want to watch you." And then I turned around, and the head of the boys' club, Brother Sal, was watching this, and he just stood there watching. He did nothing.
Joey Piscatelli drew to cope with the abuse, his pictures becoming more vivid and violent, mirroring the nightmare he was living, a nightmare that only got worse.
This went on for about a year and a half, and then one day he cornered me on the stairs and started molesting me and told me to get upstairs to the all-purpose room on the third floor of the school. And he dragged me into the room and attacked me, and I was raped, and I passed out and blacked out while that happened, and I just totally lost sense of what happened after he started attacking me. When I got home, well, I don't even know how I got home, but when I got home, I had blood in my underwear. So I went in the backyard of my house, and I wrapped the bloody underwear around a rock and threw it over the fence into the field to get rid of the evidence or whatever. It was so disgusting, and I knew I had been raped.
According to Piscatelli, he was threatened when he reported it to a staff member.
The principal of the school, Father Bernard DeBenny, who's now a convicted molester, told me that he was going to kick me out of school and fire my mother from the cafeteria because I have a big mouth.
Threats and intimidation by the Salesians, a pattern you will see throughout this investigation. The Salesians fought Piscatelli's lawsuit at every turn. Like in these court documents, when they argued that Father Whelan masturbating in front of a schoolboy is acceptable if deemed funny. In 2006, Piscatelli won his case and was awarded $600,000. But more than that, he won public recognition of the appalling wrongs he'd suffered at Salesian hands. Father DeBene, the principal who threatened Piscatelli, also had a history of abuse. Over a decade before Joey Piscatelli started Salesian High School in Richmond, it was a Salesian seminary. It was where a teenage George Stein first met Bernard DeBene.
I know it's not easy to retell or to relive this, but could you tell us a little bit about what happened in your sophomore year at the seminary?
He basically hugged me and kissed me, and that was inappropriate, and I wasn't expecting it at all. And I told him that this happened and I wanted it to stop. And for me it did. It stopped. He remained there for the rest of the academic year, and then he was reassigned.
But he was reassigned to another school?
Yes, yes.
Much later, Stein discovered the true horror hidden at the seminary.
At our 40th anniversary of our graduation from high school, a third to a half shared that they'd had occasion to be molested or to be approached.
That's an extraordinary percentage of people in that room.
Yes, yes, it is.
The church says so much of this horror is in the past, but it's not. Only last year, the LA Archdiocese had to remove a Salesian priest from working within its school system after becoming aware of sexual abuse allegations dating back 40 years. Allegations that the Salesians had failed to act on. Patrick Wall was himself a religious order priest, and to date has helped to investigate hundreds of clerical abuse cases.
The Salesians are silencio. They have refused to put out anything unless it's with a court order or unless the civil authorities force them to do something. In my experience has been that the Salesians have the highest percentage of perpetrators of any religious order across the world.
That focus being the betterment of the lives of children, which includes creating and teaching at schools, youth camps, clubs, and missionary work. The Salesians of Don Bosco, now a worldwide organization working in more than 130 countries, helping millions of children. But as our investigation across 3 continents found, not always protecting them.
We came to the Vatican to share the evidence that we were able to unearth over a year-long investigation. Evidence of abusers being moved, evidence of a refusal to defrock abusers, evidence of lives being destroyed. But many of the key institutions refuse to even speak to us. And that doesn't give much hope for the Church's commitment to transparency and change.
Father Hans Zollner is on the Pope's Commission for the Protection of Minors. He was one of the few people who agreed to talk with us.
This is a very important step forward in the development of a culture of accountability.
Does this apply, though, to the Holy Orders? Because the Holy Orders will not directly fall under that bishop.
Now, the congregations and the religious orders follow a different type of structure and legal procedures. Many people think the Catholic Church is a monolithic block with one CEO who is the Pope, and he presses a button and every bishop and every priest and every Catholic actually salute and they follow what he does. And that is not the case. In some cases, in way too many cases, the religious superiors did not follow through canon law.
But the fact is they did not follow through canon law, and there was no oversight mechanism that made any note of that. So there are no sanctions. There have been no sanctions for that.
If there are no sanctions within the community, which is in that case an order or a congregation, then there is almost no possibility to do that.
An order that is almost untouchable, even by the Pope. Religious orders like the Salesians are left to act with almost no external accountability.
When you put the institution first and not the people for whom you serve, then that is the biggest problem.
In the centuries of its existence, this is the heart of the battle within the Church. Could these new papal guidelines make a difference? The way they're written makes it unclear how they will even be applied to religious orders. Survivors tell us it's impossible to have faith in a church that isn't holding everyone equally to account. Meanwhile, they're the ones left to struggle with the hurt.